thing is Jordan Ott is now the head coach, right? He's the guy. And it seems like Devin Booker had plenty of input in this decision.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on Jordan Ott so far?
It seems like we were talking in the office before coming out here. It's cliche, but it seemed like he kind of won the press conference, right? Obviously, you were there yesterday, but following it on Twitter and stuff, it seemed like it was the opposite reaction that Suns fans had from the Brian Gregory press conference, where that one seemed to kind of pour gasoline on the fire. This one felt like it kind of calmed some of the nerves of Suns fans, and coming right out of the gate, basically with the question basically alluding to his Michigan State ties, and I wouldn't say he was defiant, but he kind of says, look, I've been in the league for a long time, 12 years or so. I've earned this right, and I'm going to kind of show you that I earned it by what I put out on the floor when we tip this thing off in the fall. And I like that answer. What did you think when he said that?
It kind of was like, whoa, kind of raised your eyebrows, right? And be like, okay, I like that. And that's where it's true, I don't understand why people are making such a big deal that Matt Ishbia and Brian Gregory are going with somebody that they know.
Mm-hmm.
If I become a news director somewhere, right, and I got to pick people to assemble a sports staff, I'm going to call Robby Baker. I'm going to call people that I know.
It makes sense.
That I know I can count on, especially if this is my first time, and I want to make sure that I get it right. So you're going to go with if you're a head waiter somewhere, and then finally you become a manager of your own store or your own restaurant,
mm-hmm.
aren't you going to hire people that you know are good? So I don't see why. It's not like he's never coached before, and he's the son of the owner, and then they're hiring him just because of that.
Yeah.
And like you said, this guy spent 12 years in the NBA. He worked his way up from the video coordinator with the Atlanta Hawks, which I think is very interesting because that seems to be a remedy for success.
Well, Spoelstra in Miami is kind of the poster child for it now.
Exactly. David Griffin was here with the Suns. Video guy, went over to the Cleveland Cavaliers, helped them win their first NBA title. So, yeah, and I asked him about that, and I find it really interesting. He said, yeah, he goes, when you start in the video room, you got to be used to working long hours.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be used to, working by yourself. You got to be used to, being inquiring, having an inquiring mind, wanting to learn. And I kind of like that. And what are your thoughts on a guy that's 40, right? Who's,
he's a man. He's 40,
right? He's young. He's young to me. He's probably, not, young to you, right? But what, that's the thing's going to be tricky because he's young. He's never been a head coach before, and you're going to be a leader of men. So how do you think he goes about getting these guys to respect him?
Well, to your point about the video room thing, I find it interesting when you kind of just put all the puzzle pieces together on this, that he was the video coordinator in Atlanta under Mike Budenholzer, who Jordan Ott would not have this job if Mike Budenholzer's term here did not flame out spectacularly in 1 year. But I think, how many times has Flex told you and I over the last week that he is a grinder? Nobody's going to work harder than Jordan Ott. He's going to work the late hours, and that I think goes back to the video thing, that working in the video room like you just alluded to. And I don't think age matters necessarily to these guys in the NBA. If you're a Devin Booker, or we could talk about this in a minute. Other than Devin Booker, who's going to be on this roster when they do tip this thing off? But no matter who it is, if you are working for a guy, to use your analogy, if you're working for somebody who is there before you get there and is there after you leave and is always trying to improve and make things better, and you can tell, all right, maybe they get off to a slow start next year, but Jordan Ott is continuing to grind, and they're tinkering with things, and they're working on the lineup, and they're trying different tactics defensively and offensively. I think that's how you would, kind of endear yourself to this new NBA player that, with player empowerment and movement and everything. If you're a grinder and you're outworking, you can't outwork with them on the court. But if you're putting in more hours than those guys just trying to make things better, then I think that they'll buy in. Look at Kenny Dillingham at ASU. Look how quickly that turned around. And that's just from his grinding nature of constantly working.
And when you see a guy who's a coach, whether it's an assistant or the head coach, working hard to make you better as a player, that's one way to definitely get their attention. And I think that's one thing that Jordan Ott is going to do. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people say is his strong point, is that he can relate to a superstar. He can relate to the megastar. He can relate to the role players. He can relate to a guy trying to make the team. He can relate to the video guy.
Mm-hmm.
He can relate to this. And I think what goes to show about his work ethic and the equity that he's built up over his decade of working, and grinding and working up the ranks is you talked about that staff, right? With Mike Budenholzer in Atlanta. You had Darvin Ham was one of those assistants
Oh yeah.
with Jordan Ott. Well, then when Darvin Ham gets a head coaching job in LA, guess who he brings in as his assistant? Is Jordan Ott.
Jordan
So
Ott.
that's another, proof that these guys, they know, look, this guy's a grind. I know what I'm going to get from him. And I think it also shows him being humble in a way because this guy was your colleague. Next thing you know, he gets a head coaching job, and then he brings you in as an assistant where you guys were kind of equal at one point, and now you're working under him. But also that also shows that he has paid his dues. He has waited where there were other guys that got picked before him. And then it was also kind of interesting, I think, for him to be in Cleveland this year, right? They did a fantastic season for the Cavaliers, 64 wins. But Johnny Bryant was one of the guys kind of in the mix for this job.
They were competing with each other, kind of.
Yeah. So that's got to be pretty interesting too. But now he's here. I think he's going to have some help in developing his own staff. It's not going to be the same with Mike Budenholzer, where they gave him carte blanche and said, so you just do whatever you want. And I think Brian Gregory, Matt Ishbia are going to kind of help Jordan Ott to get his staff. And what do you think? Do you think it would be a good idea to get some guys with head coaching experience to kind of be a guy for Ott to lean on?
Yeah, I think you got to kind of, wait out. It looks like, according to reports, David Fizdale, it seems like he's probably going to be on his way out now. He's survived one coaching turnover. It doesn't seem like he's going to survive another one here, so to speak. But I think you need somebody, maybe some voice in the room, just to lean on, because he's never done it before, and it's not a bad thing. Flex told us too that he expected to be a young first-time head coach, which is exactly what the Suns did.
Yes.
And I'll use the Kenny Dillingham analogy again. When you look at how he filled out his staff, Charlie Ragle, who was a storied high school coach, Idaho, spent time at Arizona. Kenny Dillingham hired people around himself since it was Kenny's first time as a head coach. He surrounded himself not necessarily with yes men or people that were going to make it easy, that were going to challenge him a little bit, that were going to help guide him on his path to figuring out what it means to be a head coach. I would imagine more of the same from Jordan Ott. I don't know names specifically, but I think you would lean on some experience into, just kind of quickly circle back to the whole Michigan State thing too. We don't know how Jordan Ott's going to pan out. We don't know how Brian Gregory's going to pan out. This is going to be a crucial offseason for the Suns to nail, and it's going to be Brian Gregory at the helm. I think to use the term Flex said, their antennas went up when the Brian Gregory hire happened, because after the season there was the press conference with Ishbia about changes and we're going to do things differently, and then you promote from within with somebody with the Michigan State ties, and then the press conference didn't go well, quote unquote, and it just kind of, I think Suns fans are not happy right now, and rightfully so. It hasn't been what was promised the last couple years, and so I think it was just a matter of circumstance with Jordan Ott. It was almost a bummer that he went to Michigan State because it kind of held against him. But like I said, he said all the right stuff yesterday to kind of be like, no, okay, I did it. I went there. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, and the proof is in the pudding, right? In the work he's done, like you mentioned, over a decade, 12 years, as an assistant, video game guy, And so now you have to hit the ground running, really, because you got the NBA draft on June 25th, and you have to see what you can get for Kevin Durant. It's no secret he's been on the trading block. And
it sounds like a bidding war. Remember, there was the time where it was like, no one's going to want Kevin Durant. He's only got a year left. He's aging. He always gets hurt. Oh, all of a sudden now there's 8 teams, and Shams reporting today that there's mystery teams that are lurking out there too.
Yeah, and when you think about it, Kevin Durant went to the University of Texas. The Spurs have a plethora of picks. They have the number 2 pick.
You think it's going to be San Antonio?
Well, I think that they're definitely going to be in the mix. One, because they can give the Suns the 14th pick. A Vassell, Keldon Johnson, maybe Harrison Barnes. That'll be something that the Suns can work with, or at least have as a jumping point, right? And say, go to Minnesota and say, well, look, this is what the Spurs are giving us. Because if you're a team like Minnesota who's been close, you're like, man, we just need one guy that could get us over the hump. That could be Kevin Durant, because he can still play at a high level.
Oh yeah, what was he? 32 points last year or something? I mean, last year was one of the best years of his career statistically, which people don't realize because the season did not go well for the Suns. But Kevin Durant was great. That's what's going to be, I think, one of the most interesting things when people look back on Kevin Durant's time with the Suns is. It started off rocky when he rolled his ankle and his debut got delayed and everything. But like when he played, we got some really good Kevin Durant basketball. It was just unfortunate the team did not have the success that people thought, but Kevin Durant, I don't think they're going to retire his number and put his name in the rafters necessarily, but the 2.5 years here, Kevin Durant played great basketball, which should help them when they're trying to sell him and move him. And to your point, if Houston's offering this and San Antonio's all of a sudden today, Miami. I heard Jaime Jaquez's name I saw on Twitter and some pics and different things, and they're like, okay, all of a sudden, to your point, Brian Gregory, okay, well, I got this over here, and then maybe he should, talking about surrounding yourself with experience, give Monty Hassenford a call, because Monty knows how to leverage these things.
Yeah, that's for sure. And another thing, to kind of go to your point about the year and the run that Kevin Durant had with the Suns, this past year he was relatively healthy, played quite a few games, so that is another thing that will add value to his trade stock. And then, of course, you still got Bradley Beal out there, and, who knows, some teams could need a guy like him, and of course with him and his no trade clause, he's got to be sold on the team as well because he's got to waive that no trade clause.
Yeah, that's going to be the trickiest. It feels, this is not like reporting, this is just reading the tea leaves and the reports on Twitter, but it feels like a wave and stretch, which is crazy, the amount of money that they're going to be stretching and stuff with him. But if he's not going to be here, I just don't know what he waives. He didn't do it at the deadline, so I don't know why now he's going to say, okay, I'll waive my no trade clause. But stranger things have happened.
Yeah, I mean, if he thinks, look, I'm not wanted here, I don't fit in here, and I can go somewhere where I could flourish statistically and maybe win, then maybe that's the king. Or they could just buy him out.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it seems like they're going to build around Devin Booker. And it seems like Jordan Hart has a good relationship with Devin Booker. He spoke very fondly of him in the press conference, and Devin Booker seems to flourish when he's got role players around him. And it wouldn't be bad to get him a point guard that could help him out as well.
Happy birthday to Devin Booker's dog, by the way.
Is that right?
I saw it on Twitter. Yeah, they posted a happy birthday to him.
You got to, dogs are the best. Somebody had a shirt that said, everybody thinks their dog is the best, and they're right because to you, your dog is the best. And so now it looks like, Devin Booker's going to be the top dog, which I think he deserves